a premium version with personalization built at its core.
What does that mean? So you know what I, John Sopel, like. You know what clothes I like to wear, what kind of things I might want for my home, etc., etc. Is that
Exactly. So the more you use our service, the more we learn about you, and then we can personalize your journey based on that. You also connect to people with similar tastes in things to you, so we have that secondary data set that we can sort of recommend things to you based on that.
Doesn't that make me boring and stuck in my ways?
I think personalization is basically just a spectrum. So it's a bunch of filters that you can switch on and off. And if you want to be surprised by some results, you switch some of those filters back and you'll be surprised by some of them. If you want to create shortcuts in your journey for shopping, then you switch some of those personalized filters on, and that's exactly what will happen.
Ian, what do you think?
Well, Dean's right in that if you want to switch the filters off, you can always switch the filters off. I mean, you can always just stop using these services. You can stop using Google. The fact is, once these filters are in place, we tend to rely on them. So, and we tend to we can't be bothered to change them. And so we end up with this kind of constant stream of information which is reinforcing what we already know, we already like. And it means that we're more likely to end up in our own kind of cultural bubbles where we're less likely to stumble across things that we didn't know we were interested in. So, you know, if you walk into a bookshop and you're looking for a crime thriller, and then your eye might be caught by a display and it turns out it's a book about Henry VIII. You go, well, that's interesting, I'll pick that up and have a look. And you might walk out with that book rather than the crime thriller. That's less likely to happen it can happen, it's less likely to happen with an Amazon algorithm, for instance, which recommends only books that you've read in the past. So your world is constrained rather than expanded.
Yeah. Dean, I mean, you know, when you travel the world, isn't it one of the great joys of getting lost in a city that you've never been to before and seeing where you might end up, which seems to run totally counter to personalisation?
Absolutely, but it sort of depends on how you define personalization as well. So, for example, if I'm on holiday and I meet somebody who I have a lot in common with, and that person recommends things to me, then that's still a serendipitous experience. But it's also personalized to me because that person shares similar interests to me.
Do you also think that we do just reinforce our prejudice? You know, I was at a debate at Google actually this week where someone was saying, you know, I've never known anything other than Google search. You know, she was a 16-year-old girl student, and she was saying that, you know, I look at the first three things that come up on the thing I'm searching for, and that is my view of the world, and it tells me exactly what I want. But I don't learn anything else outside the narrow parameters that I set.
I think if that was so important, then you would click to the second or third page or fourth page, and then you will find those sorts of results. But the reality is this sort of technology is working for people. You know, and it's working for Google search. Their ads work. If, for example, Google pioneered, you know, personalized advertising through that, you know, through AdWords, and it works. And if they switched that off tomorrow, and I was presented with a bunch of advertisements that weren't relevant to me, my experience isn't very good, and Google wouldn't be profitable.
I think the reason it works is that, well, it's a fantastic service, but it works with the grain of some of our less sort of worthy instincts, particularly our laziness. You know, we're lazy. If we don't want to, you know, if we don't have to think about something, we won't. So actually,
we're often time poor.
And we're time poor, yeah, exactly. We're very busy. We've got things to do. We don't always. So actually, we'll see the thing on the top of the list or the thing that appears on the Google map, and we'll click there and we'll check that out if we can. So Google makes it easier for us to do things. But actually, some degree of difficulty in finding information and can lead to new discoveries and interesting diversions. So yeah, it works fantastically well, but that's because it works with our natural tendency to be a bit lazy.
Are we in the foothills of this? Has this got a long way to go?
Oh, definitely. You know, Facebook, for example, only just started personalizing their news feed in 2011. And at that stage, people would spend about 27% of their time on the news feed. Since they started introducing personalization there, that's jumped to 40%. So for me, it's working. Those numbers prove that people actually enjoy it and they spend more time on it, and it works. So.
It works, but then there's the bigger question about whether or not it's good for culturally and for society for it to work.
Okay. All right, there we must leave it. Both of you, Ian, Dean, thank you very much indeed for coming in. You don't need to do a Google search for me to tell you that I'll be back with more on Global in about 7 or 8 minutes' time. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to the Fast Track Travel Clinic with me, Simon Calder. Many of you have been in touch to find out about the sudden change of motoring law for Florida that took effect at the start of the year. Roger Penny is one of many regular visitors to the Sunshine State who's mightily confused.
I've been renting cars in Florida for the past 15 years, but I understand I now need an international licence. Please update me on the situation.
At the start of this year, Florida's lawmakers required all foreign motorists to carry the International Driving Permit, a document that virtually no other mainstream vacation destination demands. The Florida Department of Highway Safety warned that offenders risked jail. This caused consternation in Canada, Australia and many other countries. But then there was a U-turn. Visitors were told the rule wouldn't be enforced. That wasn't the end of the story, because any foreign motorist driving without an IDP was technically breaking the law, a risky strategy in the event of an accident or an insurance claim. But finally, in April, the state governor, Rick Scott, signed a bill repealing the law, which means your ordinary licence will suffice. Next, Amit Bidwai was booked to fly from Manchester